Merry Christmas, everybody! Trevor here, and it's time for another top 3 ranking video. And for tonight's topic, we'll be ranking all 3 known adaptations of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, but this time from overrated to criminally underrated. Now, keep in mind that I won't be counting the sequels or parodies because they're not important right now. And besides, I want to pick at least 3 of the origin stories of Rudolph from each production company. So without further ado, let's get this video glowing. Coming at number 3 is the 1964 version by Rankin Bass. This is the version that most people remember in their youth, and yes, I was one of them who grew up with this version, but unfortunately, it's not my most favorite Christmas movie by Rankin Bass. Why? Because I thought it was quite mean-spirited and cruel at times, especially Donner, who was Rudolph's father in this version, as well as Santa Claus, who was a complete jerk to his reindeer, elves, and even his wife. I also thought the abominable snow monster was too frightening even for little kids, but thankfully, he does reform at the end of the movie. But this version isn't all bad though. In fact, there are some things I actually did enjoy about this adaptation. For example, I thought Burl Ives was an excellent narrator for this special, not to mention a great singer who was well known for singing Have a Holly Jolly Christmas. Oh, and speaking of songs, I even enjoyed the We Are Santa's Elves musical number, even though Santa Claus trashed it by the end. And when it comes to supporting characters, my favorites are Hermie, Yukon Cornelius, and even Clarice, even though she hardly had any character development when compared to her GoodTimes counterpart, but that's just my opinion. While this isn't the worst Christmas special, but it definitely deserves the number 3 spot as one of the most overrated holiday specials of all time. But if you still like it better than any version of Rudolph, then I totally respect that, just as long as you understand why I say otherwise. Number 2 is the original 1948 animated short by the Fleischer brothers. If you thought the 1964 adaptation was the original, then chances are you haven't heard of this more obscure 2D animated short by Max Fleischer from the 1940s. Like many other adaptations of Rudolph, this one starts off with the other reindeer poking fun of Rudolph and his shiny red nose, which makes him very sad, but then one night, Santa decides to see him in bed asking him if he could guide his sleigh that stormy night. And sure enough, Rudolph was happy to help Santa and was declared a hero after saving Christmas. The reason this is ranked as number 2 is because, like the other cartoons by the Fleischer brothers, this one is in the public domain, and as a result, I first learned about this version of Rudolph in one of the Disney sing-along tapes in which they borrowed clips from this short for their Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer musical number. Also, I thought the animation in this was decent, even for its time because it gives off the classic 1940s cartoon vibe. And unlike the Santa Claus from the number 3 spot, this version of Santa was just as kind and accepting as the one in the 1998 remake, but we'll get to that next. However, the only thing I didn't like about this short is that Rudolph only had one line of dialogue in the entire short.
Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.
Kind of disappointing if you ask me, but still, I think this short version of Rudolph is very underrated and deserves more recognition than what it already got. I suggest you give it an honest chance on YouTube. And my number 1 choice is obviously the 1998 remake by GoodTimes Entertainment. You knew this one was coming, didn't you? If you've been following me for a very long time, then you know I put this movie in my top 12 favorite Christmas movies video from years ago. Even though this is my favorite adaptation of Rudolph ever, it still has some problems like the cheap animation quality, as well as the instrumental cues that sound off when compared to the other holiday specials by other companies. Also, as much as I love Kathleen Barr as the voice of Rudolph in this, but I think the role should have been given to Cam Clark instead because I think it would have made the older version of Rudolph sound more mature and masculine. And besides, I think Kathleen Barr should only voice Rudolph in the Rankin Bass cinematic universe for these reasons alone. But regardless of its flaws, I still love the songs, including Show Me the Light, which was the best song in the movie, most of the supporting cast, including Zoe herself as the movie's own version of Clarice, and like the 1948 animated short by Max Fleischer, this movie's version of Santa is also kind, caring, and very accepting of Rudolph no matter his appearance. If you want more information on why I love this movie so much, I'll provide a link in the description below. Otherwise, we'd be here all night. Now let me know which adaptation of Rudolph is your favorite. Do you agree with my list, or have you seen better? For my next ranking video for Christmas, I'm thinking ranking all 3 Disney adaptations of A Christmas Carol, because why not? This is Trevor Davis signing off and saying, Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.